Hello and welcome to the Metropolitan State University podcast, brought to you by the Marketing and Communications Department. My name is Jake Nadeau, and I will be your host for this episode. Today, we will be talking to Sarita Kelly about her job search adventure. Thanks for listening. Hi, Sarita. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
So you're a Metro student as well as I am, and I want to ask, how do you like it so far?
I like it. I like it a lot. It's a good fit for me, definitely.
Definitely for me as well. So let's get some background information before we jump into job searching.
Okay.
I want to ask, what's your major is?
My major is technical and professional communication.
Same as me. Yep.
Oh, nice.
All right. And why'd you choose that major?
I chose that major because it fit best for what I wanted to do long term. So it was a better fit, so I just went with that.
That's what I figured out too, is that really honed in on what I want to do as a career. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been at Metro State?
4 years.
4 years? Nice.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to be talking about job searching and kind of your experience with it. And so you mentioned when we talked before that you had a meeting with the Career Center just to start.
Yep.
Why don't you talk a little about what went down there and why'd you do that?
I set up a meeting with the Career Center because, like a lot of people looking at graduation dates, your focus is, one, graduating, like getting done, getting that out of the way, but also 1A is to find a job. Like, that's kind of what drove me there, which is just, hey, how do I start to look for a job? Where do I look? Where do I not look? Because sometimes where you don't look is, where you shouldn't look is more important than where you do. Mm-hmm. And I know Bill definitely helped me like hone down on, setting up a goal date on when I wanted to have a job by, and, the importance of networking and where to look for jobs. So that definitely helped kind of push me in the right direction. Yeah,
so it kind of jumpstarts the idea of moving past college.
Yes.
That's what I realized when I went there too. And so you work for the Vikings, correct?
I work for a Vikings blog. It's called The Daily Norseman, but the Vikings kind of sanction us, for lack of a better term. We're the only blog that gets to go to training camp in Eagan now. We get to interview the players, we get to go to events, so they definitely are fine by us. So we work very closely with them to promote everything and anything Vikings.
That's really cool.
Yes.
I'm a big Viking fan myself, so that sounds really fun. And how did that happen?
About 3 years ago, I ironically went to a podcast. It was a group of people who I had followed on Twitter, who were heavily involved with the Vikings through the blog or actually working with the Vikings directly. And so I was invited. So I went. I wasn't a part of it. I was just kind of in the background watching. And at the end, one of the people there ended up talking about how the Daily Norseman needed more consistent writers, how it was just hard to keep people with a blog because, blogging is a lot of time and not a lot of money. It's fun when you start, but when you realize the amount of work that it can be, especially with something like the Daily Norseman, people just kind of lose interest. And so another gentleman we were talking to said, hey, why don't you get Sarita to do it? And I was kind of taken aback by it. I had been blog writing for a few years, but to be suggested was nice. So Ted is his name, put me in contact with the editor of the Daily Norseman, Chris, and we kind of, I was involved in some things, so I couldn't dedicate as much time as I wanted to. So then he contacted me about 8 months later and said, hey, if you have the time, we're still hiring. And I said, I am. So I've been there for about 1.5 years now. It'll be 2 years, I think, in the spring or summer. So
that's great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of networking that went into getting a job like that. And that's another point that the Career Center meetings usually point out is that it's not just all Googling.
No. Yeah. Googling's nice. I actually have a job that I found on the web, but it definitely helps to know people and to be in the right place at the right time.
Definitely. And so you've been at Metro State for a couple of years now. And so do you think Metro State has helped you prepare you along your career path?
I do. I liked Metro. I was at MCTC before, and I liked MCTC, but I feel that Metro definitely gives you that book experience that you need, but they also follow it up with how to apply this into the real world, because that's what you're going to be doing eventually. You're not going to be in college forever, so we want you to take what you learned here and actually be able to use it in your job correctly.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's perfect. And so if a student is trying to begin their career, what are your suggestions or tips and tricks that what they should do to get started?
Be open.
Be open
to suggestions. For the longest time, I wanted to be a doctor. I knew from very little, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a doctor. But the older I got, the more I realized that it just wasn't for me. And it wasn't necessarily the amount of schooling. I mean, I'm okay with school. I'm a fine student, whatever. But just the amount of work that they have to do. My cousin's internal medicine pediatrics doctor. So I was talking to her, and she said it's not just writing a prescription, it's the follow-up. Well, you're better, great. You're not better. Well, now we have to dig deeper into what's wrong, and sometimes it's not always the news you want, and I kind of had a harder time with that. I was like, I don't want to give bad news to people. I just want to make them better. So I went to teaching kind of accidentally. I was working at a daycare, and someone said, hey, you're really good at this. You should think about teaching. And I never thought about teaching.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I did that on and off for 10 years. But writing was something that I always wanted to do. So I decided, okay, I'll just get more serious about it, and kind of jumped in head first. So
yeah, there's kind of that factor of knowing more about the career than just the title.
Yes, definitely.
That's what I've found out when researching jobs, is that a doctor does not mean just helping people. There's so much more that goes into that.
It's way more complex than you think, because when you go to the doctor, it's, oh, I'm sick, oh, I broke something, and then there's that initial fix, but there are times where it doesn't get fixed, and you have to keep going back, and they have to kind of figure out what's wrong. So it was definitely not for me. But yeah, be open to suggestions. Listen to the people around you, and they obviously have your best interest, and they know you, so they know your likes, your dislikes, and try talking to people about what they do, and your generals can help too.
You tried several things too. You were
a
doctor, teacher, and now you found it. So
yeah, I mean,
there's not a single path.
No, there never really is, and even if there is, it's never really easy. There's always something that'll come up or get in the way. So just keep going and just be open to new ideas. So
perfect, yeah. And the last question I wanted to ask is, what's been your favorite class at Metro State?
My favorite class, I would have to say I have two. One of them is my capstone, so I took that last semester. I decided to get that out of the way. And it was with Brian Nerney, and it was writing narrative nonfiction, and that seemed really intimidating because it's more of creative writing, kind of, sort of, and I'm very used to just very atypical writing.
Professional writing, technical writing.
Yes, I definitely had to step out of my comfort zone to write about. He had us pick kind of like a life event that happened, and so I picked something, and it's hard because I'm writing about myself, so you tend to be a little more critical than normal, but also just to kind of be creative about it and not be so technical and put more emotion into it. With writing, like I said, it's very technical, very professional. Where this, it was, put emotions. How did you feel? How did the people around you feel? And I was like, I can explain my feelings. I don't necessarily know how to write them down. So that definitely helped kind of push me out of my elements. And it was nice. I did like it. I passed it. So
there you go.
So that was good. And then the other one was communicating with new media. That was nice because we actually, like I said, we applied it. We worked with local companies around the east side, and we got to run their social media. We got to talk with them. We got to help promote events. And this was in real places. This wasn't just a group event in the class. I work with the Neighborhood Justice Center. So we got to talk to them about the work they do with immigrants, new immigrants, how to deal with law enforcement, and even if you're a citizen here. So that was really nice to go in and just talk to them about that and actually apply what we were learning in a place of business, because again, that's what you want to do. And if you don't know how to gel with people or try and work out conflict, because conflict does arise when you're working in group projects or in an office setting. So it definitely was nice to get into a work environment and apply everything that we were learning. So those are definitely two of my favorite classes.
That's on my list.
It's nice.
I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. I'd like to thank Sarita Kelly again for being on this episode. If you have any more questions, head on over to metrostate.edu. Thanks again for listening.